Hey, you're with TheEZGZ. Today, we're going to look at the differences between a vacuum advanced distributor stock and a mechanical advanced distributor 009. I've been using the 009 mechanical distributor since the very beginning. Anything that had to do with stock, I just sort of took off. I was going with more radical cams and bigger engines, dual carbs, and it just seemed like another thing that could give you a problem. In the Baja, we have a mechanical 009, and ever since I started this single carb setup, I've been using that. Alright, before we invest too much into this project, I'm going to utilize this port. If it quits shaking. Is it shaking or am I shaking? There's a little screw on these Weber carburetors. Now you'll notice when I open that up, it didn't change the idle at all. The engine's cold, this doesn't have a choke, and that's why that is on that way. Now, I've got a vacuum gauge. You can use this vacuum gauge. These are pretty handy to have. You can use this vacuum gauge for fuel pump pressure. It's a compound gauge. It reads pressure on this side, and it's very accurate for setting a regulator for your fuel. But it also has the vacuum setting, and I'm going to rev up the engine. Try to hold this in one hand, and let's see what happens. All right, as soon as we give it gas, you can hear the engine, I'm sure. It's getting vacuum, okay? But there's no vacuum at an idle. That's because it's above the throttle plate, okay? The butterfly. All right. So, okay. Now I've got this distributor that I showed you. This is off the stock one. Volkswagen made a lot of different kinds. Let's look at the plate in there and see if it moves back and forth. I don't know if I can hold this steady enough. I saw it move. I should probably clean it up a little too. Does not engage until it's about, there's a spring on there. It does move. Okay, now, if I was smart, I'd let this cool off. First thing on this job I'm going to do is take the distributor cap loose. And I'm going to, you can see the line on my distributor, and this one is set up correctly. I'm going to turn it around for this job and make sure that we are coming into number one. We're going to set that timing right where we want for the static position, and I've got marks down here on my pulley. I got top dead center, I've got 10, and I've got 34. I did discover that my strobe light for my timing no longer works. And it's not that old. I had one for like 40 years. And I'm going to put, since I'm at 5,000 feet, I'm going to set it up for about a little past 10, like 12 degrees, okay? Next thing I'm going to do is take this distributor hold down screw, the bracket. I'm going to take it loose from there, and I'm going to pull the whole distributor straight out of the engine. I don't know if I can do that while holding the camera. Let's just see. I can always fast forward this. Okay, so we're going to get that loose. I should let this cool off. It's a little hot, to say the least. And all I did was just warm it up. Be sure you don't lose or drop anything down the hole. Take your distributor wire off the coil, untangle it, and you should be able to pull it out. Now, we'll note where the off-center slot is in that distributor hole. Okay? Now, I'm going to set it over here. We're going to take this distributor. It already has a bracket on it. We're not moving the bracket. We're going to put some downward pressure on it. Okay. Now, you'll note that number 1 position is not the same. I want to make sure it's completely down, all the way inside, up against the block. Now this rotor you can use to turn it. Now there's going to be that little bit of play that's in there. That's okay. It won't drop down all the way unless you have that in the right spot. That slot is off center. Now before I forget, I'm going to hook this vacuum line up, get it out of my way. I'm going to put this nut back on. I don't know what I was shining you at, because I'm watching what I'm doing, not what the camera's doing. Now, this one you want to tighten all the way tight. Okay? Now, we know we have the crankshaft in the proper position. So, the next thing to do would be to find the coil wire and plug it to the same place you had the old one. Your cap will drop in. There's a groove, there's a slot here, and there's also a spot here. There. Oop, came out. Make sure your rotor's down all the way. That drops in, only goes one way. We're using the same cap on this particular one as we had on the 009. Okay, that's going in there. Now, we're going to grab this wire. Okay, number 1 is right here now. Alright, I'm going to turn the key on. I'm going to take this spark plug wire off of number 1. I'm going to take my handy little my spare spark plug that plugs that hole. The only function of that is to mess with people's heads, and it's plugging that hole because it's vented from the crankcase down to the ground. So now I'm going to turn the key on. A extension with a 10mm socket would be much better. I'm going to loosen that up so that I can turn it. Okay, now the key is on. Okay, now I don't know if you see that. I'm rotating the distributor. There it is. I'll look through the camera, I guess. Move it back and forth. Okay. So I'm rotating my distributor back and forth till it sparks. That's a static timing with it off, with the timing marks down here. So that should be good to go. and start up. Let me tighten it back down. Now I don't have a strobe light, but it is a stock distributor, so I am really not too worried about this. This way works good for me. Now I'm going to tighten it down, and we're basically done except for a test drive. Don't forget to turn your key back off. The spark happens when your point's open, in case you didn't know that. So I'm going to take our spark plug out, put it back in our test hole, reconnect number 1, make sure that the rubber's in a good spot. I think that's okay. Let's see if it'll start. There's no other way I know of testing that vacuum except with a strobe light, or like we did, just plugging it in. Let that run. I'll button up the cover here and take it for a test drive. Why, if it was running good, would I even want to try this? Because that's who I am. I'm always trying to get things to run better. This is something that I have and own. It costs me nothing to try it. This is how I learn. I've never stopped learning. I probably forgot more stuff, and these are the types of things that you think of when you're laying in bed trying to get to sleep at night. It's like, oh, how can I change this? What have I got? How does this work? How can I make something work better? That's how I learn. And I just happen to have accumulated a lot of stuff over the last 25 years. Now, I'm not doing any hot rod stuff. That's a 5,000 RPM shift. It went right up, same as the 009. I like that. So, first impression is I don't have an impression. Now, I know from looking at the delay on the plate that it's staying at that 12 degrees until I get over 2,000 RPM. Then it's starting to advance. Whereas with the 009 mechanical advanced distributor, it starts advancing earlier. Okay, our conclusion. Went for about a 10-mile drive, and although it does look a little unusual with this setup, because I don't think this would have worked on a normal car. The fuel pump, the vacuum pot would have hit it, and I don't know what engine this is off. I'm using the cap that was on that 009, and I just plugged it in and made it work. So I hope you followed along and understood what I did to get this all to fit, and it would be very simple to change back the way it was. I can't really say that I noticed a huge difference in my seat of the pants meter as to how this thing worked, if it was better or worse. I'll have to drive it some more to really establish. That's how close it is. So you decide. Like I say, or I've said before, I think a 009 is a great distributor. Some people have issues with it. I'm not getting the greatest of gas mileage. So I'm hoping that this will improve the drivability and the mileage. I'd like to get into low 20s, and I'm currently in the high teens. And that's not really acceptable to me, and I'm constantly fiddling with stuff. I'm not that familiar with every possible combination that's out there. I only have experience on the stuff that I have, and I do rotate stuff and try a lot of different things. I even have a set of dual cadrons. I thought about putting those on there just to satisfy my curiosity, because I can. But I'm trying to get away from dual carb linkage. There's just always something at the wrong time that is an aggravation. So I create enough of my own aggravations. So hope you have a good evening. Hope you picked up a few tips on this video. Hope it helped somebody out. And thanks for watching. Thanks for subbing. TheEZGZ out.